Here's one learning point I've already had from Rob's presentation, is that if you're doing one of these presentations, don't go on after Rob. First of all, what I'm going to do is just run through some of the things that we have done in the past. I'm going to be honest, I'm going to mention some of the things that we've cocked up, because, you know, it's a trial and error. Some of these things will be trial and error for you. But more importantly, where we actually have corrected some of those cock-ups, and how we actually learned from that and moved on and have tried different things. From my perspective, at the moment I'm really the only one who's creating any e-learning in-house at Chubb. And as far as I'm concerned, it's trying things out. There's so many things out there, but it's not being afraid to actually have a go, show people what you've done, and just say, look, will this actually fit? Is this a good thing to try? How much time is it going to take? How much money have we got? And to see if that actually works. Now, first of all, one of the reasons why that we do most of our e-learning development in-house, we know best about the company. Now, I don't know if many of you know who we are. Do many of you know of Chubb Insurance Company? Yeah? Okay, a few of you do. Okay, does that logo familiar to you? You seen that around before? A few shaking heads? I'm assuming that a few of you will associate that with us, with insurance, yeah? Well, that's why we often do things in-house, because that isn't us. This is our logo. And you can see they're hugely different. Colours, big C at the beginning, nothing to link the two at all. We're nothing to do with locks, security, fire extinguishers, alarms. That's a whole other company. We're an American insurance company formed in 1882. And it just so happened, when we came over to Europe, there was already a company called Chubb, and we're actually able to use almost an identical logo. And one of the reasons why I mentioned that's important to us is that we did do a tender process not that long ago for some e-learning, and the person that came in said, oh yeah, that's great, you know, Chubb Insurance, so where do you do all the locks and security stuff? And you'd hope normally if you get a company in to do a tender for something, they would know a little bit more about you. So that's part of the reason we do a lot of stuff in-house. So that isn't us, we're the lower one. The brand. Chubb as an insurer is a little bit different from the standard insurers. We're an underwriting company, and we're not one of the big volume players like Norwich Union or Aviva, Sun Alliance, or any of those. We're a smallish specialist insurer, and we don't chase after volume. We go for sort of the higher premiums, that sort of business. And that's what we feel we know best in-house. We know our brand, we know what we're looking at, and that's more difficult to explain to other people as they come in. I'm responsible for IT training, technology training. There's two of us who do the technology training at Chubb, and that's for 1,200 users across 12 countries in Europe. So that might be another link as to why we have to use a lot of e-learning. And also, we have about 20 in-house systems, a lot of which we do have to do ARIA-only learning for. We couldn't outsource that because the amount of time it would take for someone else to do that, we would easily have been able to do it ourselves. And also, the last bit, hit the right button, is the people. We know best the people. We also know the structure of the way that our network works within Chubb. We have people in each of those branches we know we can contact, systems literate people who deal with all the systems and all the people in each branch. It's about 26 branches across those 12 countries. And we know that we can actually just ask them questions as we go. And I'll mention that again as I step through. An issue which I think affects everyone, time and money. That's not us. I'm probably showing my age if I say I actually remember seeing him live when he did that. We haven't got loads of money to spend on this. We are limited by time and by money. Okay? I think that's probably the same for everyone. Which is why we do predominantly do in-house development. We do have, I checked on our learning management system, we do actually have about 380 online lessons at the moment. Some of them need to be changed. They're getting a bit out of date. And of those 380, when I checked through, I realised that we've actually done that many in-house. Some of them are really small. Okay, some of them 2-3 minutes. But that's a much bigger proportion than I was expecting. And it proves I have been busy now and again as I've been working. But again, I'll come on to that again in a moment, why we have that. And it's crucial. It's crucial for us to be able to do that. We have actually outsourced a few of these things, simply where we haven't had the capability to do it in-house. But what you shouldn't forget when you do that is that there's still the time issue. It's still the time to meet with people who are doing tenders, to then actually spec out what you want, to get versions from them, to explain to them what the systems and network can cope with, to explain the brand, what you need to fit in with. And some of the time you actually feel that actually this is going to take an awful lot longer. And don't forget that your time costs as well. That should always be taken into the equation. And last bit on this particular slide, there's the mouse gone, there he is, our LMS. We use one called Calidus from Eater-Train. I don't know if you probably have seen them at on the exhibition floor. And another thing that's actually helped us with our e-learning is the fact that I actually redesigned the homepage using Lectora, which is the other development tool we use, so that it looked more user-friendly for us. And also because when we go to the next version of Calidus, they're using this iGoogle standard now, which you probably have seen. And rather than just dump that on our users, we thought actually it'd be quite nice to break them into it gently. So we redesigned it, and you notice I'm not in the picture there because I'm a separate team. But that actually has helped our users get used to what we're doing. And hopefully when the transition comes, it won't be quite so painful. Some other examples of items we have created. Nothing here is rocket science. It's stuff that you will have seen before. I have Captivate, which we use to do our in-house systems. As you can see, pretty standard fare. Lectora to do some other items. Okay, that one there, I could explain the ins and outs of corporate legal liability insurance to you, but I think it'd be fair to send you all to sleep just yet. And what I did there is just use some of the pictures of underwriting managers through our branches. So the people who actually use this particular course, they actually recognise some of the people in there. And that's Neil McCarthy. He's one of our underwriting managers in Manchester. Looks a bit like Sean Bean, I always think, but there you go. And this is one that I have shown before on a couple of occasions. It's one that I created a while ago using a little stick character explaining the ins and outs of competition law. Pretty dry subject. And I used humour to go through it, which at the time I thought, great, English audience, not going to be a problem. They then decided they wanted that to go out to other languages. So he actually became Jan in Dutch, he became Peter in Danish, he became Juan in Spanish, and Guido in Italian, and Klaus in German. And people say, oh, you can't use humour in these courses. If you know your audience because you're working in the same company, you can actually do that. I feel it's important to use humour. And all I actually did is where I had some of my appalling jokes in there, I asked the people in those countries, okay, I realise this may not translate that well, what would you say? And so we put the translated versions in, and it worked. And it really was that straightforward. I know I'm going to have to quickly step through. Last couple of examples, I think Margaret just mentioned Common Craft. I love those things, and in the words of Jeremy Clarkson, I thought, how difficult can that be to create? So I thought, oh yeah, I'll have a go myself. And you can see it looks like I've had a go myself, but all I did there was using my 5-year-old's colouring pencils. I created some items on there, had a 6-year-old video camera, used a couple of very, very poor IKEA desk lamps, and I nicked the whiteboard off my kitchen wall. And I was able to create that, and our HR department loved that, and whilst we haven't used that because it was a proof of concept, they actually now want to go ahead and create some others. And it hasn't cost anything as far as software goes. I'll quickly just step through the last one, because I know I'm under pressure to finish now. Last few reasons why we do this. First of all, we do most of it in-house because the only licenses we have are on the software. Okay, we don't have to pay an external company to keep updating our stuff. And that, doing the adjustments, was something we fell into a trap of before. And now we thought, oh, we can't do this again. Once the license ran out for a piece of compliance training, we were left again, and we had to create something ourselves afterwards. We're not reliant on any particular media. Okay, we can try things out. As I said, I'm trying video. Tried using a Kodak ZI8 on Monday, just to record someone for using on our induction courses. The L&D department loved that, and that's what they're going to go with. So we're going to try doing that. We realised that people outside of Chubb are using these other tools, so we know that we want to bring them in-house, but we're not there yet. Okay, we're trying them. We're going to see what works and what we can actually use inside our firewall, because it's not as straightforward as just saying, yeah, we'd love to use this. We'd love to use Ning and Twitter, etc. It's not that straightforward. We cannot do that. Communicate. Communicate with your IT department and with your comms and marketing department. That's the two main things I would say from this. Some of the questions may come out later on, but dealing certainly with IT and comms and marketing has helped us to be able to do some of these things. Without them, we wouldn't have been able to do that. Okay, especially something with Captivate, which I might mention if we get time later. And the last thing, sales. We've been asked before, so if you produce so much of this stuff in-house, some of it could be used by other smaller insurance companies like compliance training and certain other technical insurance things. And whilst I'm sort of in two minds about that, I think it would be a bit of a can of worms to actually become a vendor of these sorts of things. But we've turned it around a little bit in that we actually have started using e-learning for sales, where with particular brokers, we have an online system where they can actually get quotes in direct, and to help sell it to them, we're using the Captivate that we actually produced, showing them how blimmin' easy it is to run this, and we give that to them on a business card, an electronic business card, with the marketing stuff, and they can actually play with the system, with the explanations of how really easy this is, and they think, oh, actually, that's pretty good. And we've already used that and are using Captivate to help pass our online systems onto other brokers. So turning that around is actually something we're looking at doing a bit more. That's a bit of a whistle-stop tour. I know I've mentioned a few products there and things that we use. When we come to the questioning afterwards, feel free to chuck things at me, not literally, but questions, and hopefully I'll be able to answer you. That's my email address at the top, and I do use Twitter now and again. So there you go.